you're the only one that knows how you feel. Like, don't let other people telling you like, oh, you're fine, it's no big deal, and this and that. Like, if you feel like you need help, just go for it. Like, nobody knows you on the inside, it's just you. And as horrible as it sounds, you are going to be alone in this for a little bit, because it takes time for people to recognize that you have an issue and recognize that you need help. Not everybody can do that, and it's not a bad thing, but just trust your gut and take care of yourself, because you're the person you've got forever. People come and go, friends come and go, but you're going to stay with yourself for the rest of your life. So
welcome back to another episode on Find Joy with Joyan, the podcast that is all about helping you live and lead a life with joy. I'm your host, Joyan Chan, and every Wednesday we are giving you access to the world's best and brightest minds in their fields on our show. Listen in as these leaders impart their wisdom, inspiration, and stories to empower you to live joyfully with intention, passion, and purpose, and celebrate the struggles and overcome the challenges we may face each day with the tools and insights that we are going to share with you. Whether you are looking to improve your relationship, find your passion, learn how to embrace the present moment, deepen your spiritual connections, or learn the magic of manifestation and law of attraction to attract more abundance, this podcast is here to guide you every step of the way. As your host, I am also challenging myself to dig deeper, to learn and unlearn and ride along with you. We are not here to tell you how to live your life, because it is your life. But this life is all that we have right now. So my friend, why not live our life to the fullest? So I hope these conversations and stories will guide and inspire you to live your life to your highest potential, and a life that you are proud of as you continue to grow and evolve in your own journey. So if you are ready to start living a more passionate, purposeful, and joyful life, join us every Wednesday on Find Joy with Joyan for inspirational stories, powerful message, fun conversations, and empowering thoughts with me and my special guests and friends. And now, without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. Joining us today is a Los Angeles-based up-and-coming pop singer-songwriter who has been on the steady rise ever since the release of a breakout single, Too Far Gone, in 2021. In the last few years alone, she has racked up more than 100,000 streams across all platforms. As she preps for the production of her debut EP, she continues to strengthen her position within the pop sphere. Originally from Moscow, Russia, she raises mental health awareness amongst her fans by openly speaking about her struggles with BPD, borderline personality disorder. She's working on an album called Demons that she is planning on releasing in February, where every song is going to be about a bad habit, a story, a person expressing her thoughts in a very raw and blunt way, as she thinks people really need that. And she gets the impression that everyone around her is spending their life trying to be perfect. Yet she doesn't want to be perfect, nor does she want her music to be. She just wants to be honest. As a Hype magazine stated, you will be playing Nastiya on repeat. So guys, help me in welcoming the up-and-coming pop singer and songwriter, talented Nastiya Kai. Hi, welcome to the show, Nastiya. I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
yeah, it's Nastiya, but everybody pronounces it differently, to be honest. So at this point, like, I just tell people to call me whatever you want, because like, especially when you go to Starbucks and stuff, it's a nightmare for me. So I just
Well, I can call you Nas if you want to, Nastiya, right? Is that Nastiya?
whatever works for you, to be honest. So
well, yeah, okay.
Say that with all honesty.
Yeah, I get that. Like, yeah, because my name is Joyan, and when I go to Starbucks, I just tell them Joy, just call me Joy, and everyone calls me Joy, and I kind of love it. So
Yeah.
the first place that I want to start with you is to talk about the message that you convey through your music, because many artists tend to portray a perfect image, right, in the entertainment industry or on their social media. You mentioned that you want your music to be honest, not perfect, and you have been open about your experiences with your own struggles, BPD. I don't know why I can't pronounce that. So
That's okay.
And I don't even know what what it stands for. I actually had to Google it, you know. So maybe
Yeah.
tell us about that, your own background, your own journey, and what inspired you to be a songwriter and a singer.
I mean, in terms of music, I've always wanted to do that in a way. Like I've been singing and writing songs since I was a kid. I remember I wrote my first song when I was, I think, 10. But the thing is, I was really bullied at school, and like I did start taking singing classes and stuff, but I think at that point, like I was too preoccupied with trying to make friends. And I remember I did start taking guitar classes in school, but then it had this window basically that was facing the playground, and I saw all of my classmates like playing, like befriending other kids and stuff, and I was just there like a loner, and it made me feel like isolated. Plus, like I said, I was bullied, so I just wanted to go out and make friends, like try to be in that group with them. So I dropped out of guitar really quickly, and then I kind of still stayed like in my singing class for a while and tried to like pursue that. But then when I had my first concert in school, everybody was laughing at me, so that completely destroyed me, and I couldn't sing in front of people until I think it was like 23-ish, until I, started therapy and stuff, and I started working with my therapist on that. She was like, yeah, what do you enjoy doing? And I'm like, yeah, the only thing I can come up with is singing. She's like, yeah, why don't you do that? And I'm like, I don't actually know. Like I just never, like I never tried to like overcome that fear in a way. So it's something I've been working on for a while, and now I feel comfortable to do that finally, which I'm really happy about actually. It's like I've made major progress since, I was a kid, which sounds silly, but there it is. Um, and yeah, in terms of like the album and everything and BPD and stuff, I feel like that's an illness that people don't really talk about because, I feel like in terms of, I don't know, I dare I say pop culture and stuff, because I feel like people don't really talk about it, like, because people that raise mental health awareness are mostly like celebrities, and I actually have not heard anyone talk about BPD except for Madison Beer.
Mm,
So yeah, I feel like people just don't know it exists, but it's confused with bipolar a lot. It's like, I don't know how to put it. It's basically not learning to regulate your emotions as a kid, if you put it simply. It's obviously a lot more complex with that than that, but basically it's, there's this like debate ongoing debate in psychology and psychiatry between like nature and nurture. So they don't really know if you're like born with it or if you learn it. But basically it's not knowing how you feel. So for example, before I started therapy, I would get angry, right? But I wouldn't know that I was angry. Like I wouldn't connect with that emotion. So that ended up in me like, that resulted in me like panicking and everything, and then acting out and doing things that are bad for me because I simply did not know what I was feeling, and that scared me. And that applies to all kinds of emotions, even happiness. Like you're happy, but you don't even know that you're happy. So you just start like running around like a crazy person and doing weird things. So like you're basically not in control of yourself 100% of the time. And then, your moods spike like crazy. Like if before I started my medication, for example, like my moods would change maybe every 10 minutes on a bad day. Like I'll be extremely depressed, like at a point where I'm at a table, I can't move, I can't eat, I can't do anything. Then 10 minutes later, I'm like jumping around like a crazy person. I plan things, I call my friends, I'm like, yeah, let's go on a trip, this and that and that. And then 10 minutes later, you're back at it again. You're like on the floor and you can't do it anymore, which is, it's a little bit crazy. And I've been on my medication for like a year now. And this summer, because when I traveled to the US, I brought my meds with me, and I didn't have like the prescription with me, so I couldn't buy it in the US. And I basically miscalculated, and I didn't have enough to last that trip. And I was like, yeah, it's gonna be fine. I know I sound responsible when I talk about it, but when you're on it for such a long time, it becomes like this little comedy for you. So I miscalculated, and I was like, yeah, it's gonna be fine. And then I just, like on day 2, I completely dropped back into how I felt before I started. And I was like, okay, I get it now. Because when you have it for years and years and years, that becomes normal for you. And now normal is normal for me. Like I feel okay most of the time, So I just felt it again. And I'm like, oh my God, like it hit me that I've been living in like this chaos for years and years and years, and I felt so bad. Not bad, but I really felt like I want to help others, because I suddenly realized that this is terrible, because I lived with it for so long, it didn't seem that bad to me anymore. But
mm.
then sort of like on this contrast and stuff, I was like, oh my God, no, we don't want to go there again.
Wow, yeah, I didn't know that. Thank you so much for sharing that part of who you are. So what inspired you to start sharing this with your fans and your audience? through your music?
I think it's important because, uh, people are going to disagree with me, but for me personally, like having BPD kind of, it doesn't make me who I am, but it's a big part of it. It explains a lot of the things that I've done, it explains a lot of my experiences because, for example, my parents, being Soviet parents, because with back in Soviet Union we didn't have mental health. Like it wasn't, if you were depressed, that the only answer of your family and stuff would be just go back to work. It's gonna be fine. Like it didn't exist like in the social context. So for them, when I got sick, if you can put it that way, they were just like, like you're lying, like it's fine. You're just a teenager. You're acting out and this and that, and that really hurt me. And I think that really resulted in me even making worse decisions from that point on. So that's why I think it's important for people to know what it is and to recognize that there might be something wrong with you early on, so you can start working on it early on without getting too far in making those bad decisions, because people with BPD go in all sorts of directions. There's a lot of there's many of us that are addicts and this and that, just because you don't know, again, you don't know what's happening with you, so you start finding ways to shut off the pain and these emotions. Generally, like, you don't want to feel anything because you don't see it as something normal and humane almost. So I think talking about it is important, so people start getting better earlier, to be honest. Like, I wish I started therapy a lot earlier than I did, and I started like 22 or 23, so, and by that time I'd already dropped out of high school. I dropped out of uni, like I changed maybe, I don't know, 5 different like career paths because I was so chaotic. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what to do. Like, I was just running around places and doing things. And I think if I started therapy earlier, if I knew that I was sick earlier, my life would have taken a complete different directions. I don't regret anything, but some things I wish I would have done differently.
Right.
So I just want people to, make better decisions than I did, I guess.
Yeah, and why do you think it's so hard for people to reach out for help and to even share their struggles with their friends, their family? Because I personally went through depression and I know firsthand, the struggles. And so, because you are so passionate about raising mental health awareness, what advice would you give to your fans or people who are listening to this who are struggling with their own mental health challenges, whether it's PPT, depression or anxiety, especially those who are hesitant to share and they just struggle on their own, or they keep it to themselves? What advice would you give to them to start opening up and really share, seek professional help, I would say?
Honestly, it's a difficult question for me because I didn't seek help for so long. But I guess the main thing that it was for me is the stigma and fear, and also people sort of discrediting you.
Yeah.
So I guess my main advice would be, you're the only one that knows how you feel. Like, don't let other people telling you like, oh, you're fine, it's no big deal, and this and that. Like, if you feel like you need help, just go for it. Like, nobody knows you on the inside, it's just you. And as horrible as it sounds, you are going to be alone in this for a little bit, because it takes time for people to you know recognize that you have an issue and recognize that you need help. Not everybody can do that, and it's not a bad thing, but just trust your gut and take care of yourself, because you're the person you've got forever. People come and go, friends come and go, but you're going to stay with yourself for the rest of your life. So
That is so true. Yeah, yeah, that's so true. And yeah, thank you so much for being honest, because it's true that the reason why we don't share is because of stigma, or the fear of other people's judgment. But you personally, you overcame that fear and now you are sharing openly. So, which is why I wanted to hear a bit about your thoughts and advice for people who are still in the beginning of their journey, they are still struggling, because it's a journey, right? It doesn't mean that we will get healed overnight, or, you are still seeing your therapies right up to today. You are still on medication, but it's about getting started, right? Taking the first step to get better eventually, and to learn how to manage your own emotions, right? Because ultimately it's really about that. Like, how do you manage your own emotions? So how do you maintain your own mental health well-being while pursuing a career in the stressful environment? I would say, I don't know about the music industry, but I would think that it's quite demanding and stressful, right? How do you maintain your own mental health well-being while pursuing a career in the music industry?
I mean, it's not, I don't always feel good, you know what I mean? I still have my bad days, obviously. Like it's not gonna be, it's not like, you know, you start therapy and then you're miraculously healed. Like you said, it takes time and it takes years for some people. It's still like I'm still not in the perfect place and I know that. But I developed like little routines and stuff that make me feel better. I have this like habit tracker in my phone. I can't obviously like tick everything off every day, but you know, it's like meditate, have your morning routine, which for me is like, you know, wake up. Sorry, I have a dog here. She might be making sound. Anyway, yeah, so it's just like meditation. I don't know, lighting candles in the morning because candles make me feel good. It's those like little pleasures, like having taken time with your like morning coffee and stuff. You have to find those little things that, you know, make you feel better even a little bit and integrate them in your routine because it takes a little to go a long way, you know. It's just I don't know, it's just in the small things for me. Or, you know, like if I'm struggling or something, I know that there is a place in town where I'm at that always makes me feel happy, you know, and I'll just walk there, like be that a park or a museum or something, or like a particular painting I like to stare at. Like it's just acknowledging that you feel bad in the moment and going towards that anchor of yours that you have, but you have to find that anchor for yourself because it's different for everyone.
Mm, yeah, I love that. You it's like an anchor. Like how do you reconnect back to yourself, right? How do you go back to yourself? And I also love, morning routines because it's the start of the day and how you start your
Yeah.
day, set the tone for the rest of your day. So and back to, the message as a whole, when it comes to your music, do you think the world needs more honesty than perfection?
Because nobody's perfect, you know, and you can always like what I meant when I said that, I guess it's just I hear so many like dance tracks and stuff, and you know that's good, you know, like people should have something to, you know, have fun with and blah blah blah, but any kind of art is, I feel like, meant to inspire people in a way, you know, and any kind of thing that you create, it's going to have an impact on someone. So why not share something that is not talked about at all? Music is a craft and art like any other. And, you know, there's a lot of dark paintings out there. There's a lot of dark books out there that you will resonate with because some people are like, I'm a darker person on the inside, you know, like I get sad a lot. Like, you know, I have intrusive thoughts and this and that. And, you know, I'm not always jumpy and happy. So why shouldn't I talk about it? Why shouldn't other people listen to it and know they're not alone in this? And the thing is, like, a lot of poems that I read or things like that that are about, you know, depression and, you know, going through things, they're very, I don't know how to put it, but they're very like poetic. Like it's never straightforward. It's never like, oh, you know, like I fell on the floor and cried for 10 hours because that happens, you know? And like sometimes this is what I want to hear. Like even when I speak to my friends and stuff, like the way I would feel comfortable with someone as if I'm sharing something like I just said, you know, like I fell on the floor and I felt like, I don't know, I'm gonna pass out and I'm never gonna see light again. And they're like, oh yeah, I went through the exact same thing. It's never, oh, you know, you're gonna get better, blah, blah, blah. I want to know that somebody's going through the same thing. I want to know that I'm not alone. That way you don't feel weird, you don't feel left out, you know, this the whole stigma thing that we're talking about, it sort of like disappears a little by little. So that's why I think it's important for me to express that through music because music is the way I express myself. So I just want to be honest and say what I have to say, to be honest, and hope that maybe it's going to help someone because I don't write books. You know, I'm not a big paragraph writer in my social media and stuff. So that's the way I would get my message across through music. So.
And how has it been received by your audience? What are some of the responses that you have get from your audience, after sharing the people actually reach out to you and say, hey, I really appreciate you. I am going through the same struggles, but you really inspire and help me a lot. How has or people, judge you, what was the how well was it received?
I mean, so far so good. I've had some people reach out to me and say, "Oh, you know, like this is really refreshing in a way where, you know, even in terms of editing my songs, like I don't let people like auto-tune me and stuff. You know, if I sound bad, I just do, you know, like again, you're not perfect and stuff. So a lot of people have told me that they like that. Like they like the imperfection of it, they like the rawness, they like the lyrics, you know, even because again, they're like, oh, maybe it's not a perfect song, but that's what makes it so good. So that made me happy. I don't know, because I was worried about it for a
Mm.
little bit, but
Yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on perfection because I am a perfectionist and a lot of my listeners or a lot of my people that I know or I talk to are also perfectionists. And are you a perfect? Would you call yourself a perfectionist? Because based on what I hear from you, you are not a perfectionist because you just let go and stop being perfect. So, what would you tell people if they are like perfectionists trying to get things perfect? Then they release it. How would you help people to overcome the fear of not being perfect or making mistake or looking silly?
I mean, honestly, even if you are a perfectionist, I don't see it as a bad thing. Like, different things work for different people. So it's just for me personally, perfectionism is very toxic because like I go crazy with it. Like if I start perfecting one thing, I go into, I don't know, reorganizing things in my house so they're like perfectly straight, or putting shoes like by the entryway so they're like perfectly straight. And once I start doing it with like the smallest thing, I start doing it with everything, and that becomes an obsession for me. So personally, for me, that doesn't really work, and which is why I'm trying to make peace with being like imperfect, and I just sort of like dive into the cold waters, and like I have to jump into it. It's not like a process where I'm like sitting down and I'm like, oh, I just like it's not I don't know how to put it, but it's just not something that I think about for hours and hours. I just do things and I let them go and I forget about it. So for example, my songs, once I release them, I don't listen to them. Like it's very rare that I'll go back and listen to my song because I know I'm gonna be like, oh, I should have done this and I should have done that and I should have done that. And I don't want to think about it. And maybe one day I'll learn to like not feel guilty about, again, not perfecting something. But I don't know. This is how I do it. I just do things impulsively, but in a healthy way, and then I never go back to it. And that way I know it's not perfect. I know I was proud of it in the moment because when I first listened, for example, to Wild One, the single that just came out, I really liked it. But then the more I listened to it, the more opinions I heard about it and this and that, I didn't like it anymore because of the external things that came towards me, like opinions, friends, family that were telling me things. So, and I liked it when it wasn't perfect. So do you see what I mean or no? I know it's very confusing to explain. So I released it being imperfect because I liked it that way. Um, I got lost in my train of thought, to be honest.
But it totally makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard to explain because it's in my head, but it's just basically like just do it. You know what I mean? I know it sounds silly, like a Nike slogan, but but yeah, you just have to do it, I guess, and then you think about it afterwards. Like again, it's like jumping into like it's just a jump in like an ice bucket or something. You just do it, and then whatever comes after, it comes after. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that. Actually, it's very interesting that you share that because I think that is really the key to overcoming perfection is just do it, and as simple as it is, right? Just do it and then don't look at it.
Yeah,
Because I think the problem with so many people, including me, is that I created something and I just keep looking at it, right? Then whenever I
yeah,
look at it, I will see one small tiny problem or things that I need to change. And just for example, because I'm very good with designing, so when I design something, right, every time when I look at it, I found like something that I can change or change. The font has to be bigger or smaller. This and that, the color. So
yeah.
I get it. Yeah. So thank you so much. I think it's so helpful even for me to realize that okay, I'm just gonna create it once and then just put it out there, and I don't want to look at it. Right? It's already done. It's already perfect because done is better than perfect. So
Yeah.
and I love the other thing that you mentioned about, you start hearing opinions from other people, external voices, right? How do you deal with, because when you put yourself out there, especially when it comes to songwriting and music, right? You might, I'm not saying you have, but you might attract haters, right? Because for everything we do, whenever the moment we put ourselves out there, we are exposing ourselves, right? We are being vulnerable. So of course you will have your fans and supporters, but you also have like people who just don't like what you do or they couldn't resonate with you. So how do you deal with those people who don't support you, or they are like haters, or judging you?
I have a very like cold head towards that. I started separating opinions that are based on like preferences in terms of generally what people like and don't like, and opinions that matter in terms of like how can I make my work better, you know what I mean? So if it's something, for example, they're like, oh, you know, this is not mastered very well, you could have done that differently, blah blah blah, but they don't use words like, oh, you know, this is horrible, this is this. It's just an opinion on genuinely like focused on making you a better musician. That is something I'm going to pay attention to, especially if it's someone that I know is more experienced than me or something. But if someone goes, you know, oh, this song is too, it's too happy, it's too sad, you know, like I didn't like this, I don't like the melody, oh, you don't sing that well, and this and that. That's not an opinion, it's just someone expressing their preferences to you, you know, because they maybe prefer, I don't know, acoustic songs and this and that. That is not something you have to pay attention to, because you're just different people, and that's okay. So yeah, this is how I deal with things. I just stopped like getting emotional over it, because you know, again, if the person doesn't like you, doesn't mean that they don't like you. Maybe they just don't know how to say that you're not their type of artist or something, which is completely okay. Again, we're all different people, we're different things, you know, we listen to different music and we like different art and we like different weather and etc etc etc. That's totally fine.
Wow, yeah, that's so true. You're going to separate like preferences and judgment, right? Because there's a thin line, it's a fine line, but so often we confuse, and we just think people say they don't like this means they don't like us, right? And we take it personally, right? So thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's so you really know how to, yeah, I think you really know how to, even though you have difficulty dealing with your own emotion, but I think you are quite good when it comes to dealing with emotions and potential judgment. So
Yeah.
to talk about your album, because your album is very interesting, the one that you are releasing in February. You talk about bad habits, a personal story, and it's all about being raw and honest. Can you share a bit about the inspiration behind this album?
I mean, it sort of just happened back in, I think that was March or April. I actually did an interview where I impulsively said that, you know, they were like, oh, do you have any new music coming up? And at that point, I wasn't really writing that much. I wasn't in a good place, and it wasn't working for me or whatever. Um, so I was just like brainstorming. I was like, yeah, at some point I want to write an album that would sort of be like this cathartic thing for me, where I would just let everything bad out and close that door forever, like everything bad that's happened to me. And I just said it, you know what I mean? I wasn't working on it at the time. And then as I started working on new music and everything, I realized that I kind of like manifested it in a way. Like it's just everything that I was writing about was connected to a particular story or a particular experience that I've had in the past. Because like I said, like I need emotion to write, but then now I'm in such a good place that nothing interesting is happening in my life in a way, you know, like in a good way. Like I'm in my routine, you know, I go home, I travel, and this, that. I don't really have anything to write about. And again, the only thing I could potentially write about were happy songs, and I didn't want to do that. So it just started happening. Like the first single that we recorded that's going to be on the album that's going to be released on Halloween is about this like crazy toxic relationship that I've had that made me seek therapy. And it just, again, that song just happened. I was just, you know, again, I was just sitting there and thinking about my life and, you know, thinking about all the things that I did wrong. And I wrote that song. And then I was with my producer in the studio, and we were just, again, like sharing our life experiences, blah, blah, blah. And I remembered something else. And I wrote a song in there with him in like 2 hours, another one that was about this other experience of mine that wasn't really good. And then just things started like coming together. And I think this album is really important for me in terms of therapy as well, because like I said, I do want to get as much as I can out there, express myself, tell people this, you know, like show my dark side in a way, and then shut it off and move on to a healthier life. It's like saying farewell to my demons in a way. And yeah, so far so good. Honestly, it's coming together very well, and I really like it. And honestly, like I really enjoy it as well. It's like I said, it's so cathartic. Like I'll write a song, I'll record it, and I'm like, okay, we're done with this. We're good. You know, it's not inside me anymore. It's almost like trauma therapy, but in a better way.
Yeah, yeah, I really, because what I'm thinking, because in order to create something, here's what my understanding, right? In order to create something, for example, a piece of music, you really have to put yourself in that position where you literally feel all the emotions, like your toxic relationship, as you mentioned, right? And you go back to that toxic relationship in order to have inspiration, ideas to write a song, right? And it's devastating, I would say, to go through that process again, right? So yeah, the moment you are done, you just want to put it behind and move on with your life, right? With some other healthy habits. So I think it's wow. I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to this new album. And before we move on to the final part of our episode, is there anything that you really want to share or talk about? Perhaps I didn't ask you or didn't let you.
Not that I know of, to be honest. You asked really good questions. Like, it's not very often that people do want to talk about mental health, so thank you for that. And I guess, yeah, I just want to, quote myself and say, just go seek help if you need to, and then also just don't be too hard on yourself. I guess that's the message I want to get across. Like I said, none of us is perfect. You just have to be healthy and you have to focus on what's good for you and you alone. That's it.
Well, thank you, because not everyone wants to talk about mental health, and you openly sharing today with our listeners, I really appreciate that. And mental health is, like I said, I also struggle personally in my own life about, having depression, and I know a lot of my listeners, they do as well, which is why they follow me, because they can resonate with my story. So thank you so much for sharing your journey and your song, your inspiration. Now we always end our show with final 5 rapid fire questions. So every question has to be answered in
Oh
one
my,
word or one sentence maximum.
I'm nervous. Okay.
Okay, cool. Um, okay, I have different set of question for you today, because normally I ask all my guests all the same question, but I think I have different one for you today because you are special.
Okay. Okay.
First question is, in one word, what are you living life for?
Oh my God. Self-expression.
I
Is
love
that is
it.
it?
It is.
Okay.
I love
I
it. I think
wasn't
that's
sure if
it.
that's a good answer. I was just like, ah.
No, like the first thing that comes to your mind is the answer, right? Because only you know
Yeah.
the answer. That's beautiful. I love it. Self-expression. Now, the second question is, I want you to finish this sentence. I own a ridiculous amount of black
Clothing.
clothing. Yay, you love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I was just like reorganizing my house the other day because I had to switch like winter clothes with like the summer clothes, and I was like,
Yeah.
what the hell happened here? I'm like, how did this come to be?
Yeah, I think that is the issue for every woman out there, right? We have too
I
many clothes.
swear.
Yeah. If you could live your life all over again, what would you do differently?
I would stay in school.
You will say what?
In school, because I
Oh,
dropped out of high school, so I wouldn't do that now.
okay. May I know why?
Because I think I needed the structure, and that would have taught me to not get out of things that are hard for you. And I chose an easy way out, and that's okay. I don't regret it, but I think that would have made me a stronger person.
Right. The next
Mm.
question is, what is your biggest inspiration?
My dad.
Wow, beautiful. Do you want to talk about your dad? Like, in what way is he inspiring you? Or
I don't know. There's not much to say. It's just I've been always best friends with my dad because he's the one that's always supported me. He never questioned me, like even when I was doing things that were horrible for me, were horrible for my family, and he never like judged me. His main goal was to make me feel better. And even if it harmed him in a way, and it as horrible as it sounds as well, I really I'm so grateful to him because I think he was really the only person for me for a long time that I could trust going through everything that I was going through. So it's my dad, like his strength, honestly, like getting through that. And also, he's a workaholic, he always thinks about his family first. And I don't know, he's strong and funny. He's everything I want to be. And I think he's everything I've become, to be honest. Like I'm just exactly like my dad. And we even look the same, like we're like little twins.
really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, because He reminds me of my dad as well. Like he always support me in everything I do, even though I did some like huge mistake in the past. He always forgave me and he always loved me. Yeah, thank you so
Yeah,
much. Shout out to all the dads out there.
I swear, I love that.
The last question is, what brings you joy?
Life.
Hmm.
Honestly, life right now. I'm really high on life. I don't know. I've been in a really good place for the past 6 months. Like
Mm.
ever since I just started to leave home and like travel more and everything, more than I usually do, and like live everywhere bit by bit. It's just everything. I started feeling everything a lot more. Like, I pay attention to the colors and the smells and the weather, and it's just I don't know. Like I'm that crazy person. Like I go for walks under the rain and stuff, which is not. I don't know if that's even normal, to be honest, but I really enjoyed it. It's just things like this. So I've been really happy. So life and everything that's happening to me as well, like in terms of me going back to music and spending more time with my family, and everything's great so far. So
Thank you so much for sharing that. Now thank you so much for all your amazing answers. Tell my listeners where they can find you online and where they can connect with you.
I mean, I'm mostly on Instagram. I have a TikTok, I have Spotify, any single streaming platform out there, I'm there, but mostly Instagram.
All right, guys, I hope you love this episode. Go follow Nastiya on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, TikTok. I will put all her links in the show note below. So make sure you go and check it out and give her a follow and give her a shout out and thank her for coming to our show today. Tell her what you like about this episode the most. And also follow me on Instagram if you haven't already. And make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss another episode coming to you every Wednesday on all major platforms. And I will always leave you the same way as I leave with every other episode. Show up. The world needs you and you need you. Thanks for listening, and I wish you all a joyful and amazing day ahead. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you again for tuning to Find Joy with Joyan podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, you can help support this podcast in one of three ways. 1. Take a screenshot of this episode and share it on your IG story and tag me at findjoyjoyan_podcast so I can repost and connect with you. 2. Share this podcast with a friend or a family member. And 3. Leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts so we can continue to grow and reach more listeners worldwide. Make sure you also subscribe so you don't miss out on any episode coming Wednesday. Thanks for being here, and I will see you soon in the next episode.